My name is Bobby Boucher, and at 23 years old, I thought I understood what marriage was supposed to feel like. Intimate, loyal, predictable, in the comforting sort of way. My husband, Mason, and I had been married for 2 years, young enough that everyone told us our relationship would grow with us. I believe them. Mason and I shared inside jokes, synced playlists, and lazy mornings scrolling through TikTok together. It felt normal until it didn't. It started small. Mason had always been glued to his phone, but then he discovered a certain corner of the internet, relationship podcasts, bold letter captions like, "Open marriages, why young couples thrive." At first, I ignored it. He shared funny videos, dance challenges, prank clips, and I laughed with him. But gradually, the tone changed. He began forwarding me clips where influencers preached freedom, claiming that monogamy was old-fashioned, outdated, too much pressure for modern love. One afternoon, after sending me a string of these clips, he said, "Bob, don't you ever wonder if life's supposed to be more before we're too old to try anything?" He said it lightly, like a joke tossed between us. But there was something behind his eyes, curiosity mixed with excitement. I laughed it off. "More what?" "Oh, experiences. We only live once." He nudged my shoulder playfully. "Other people explore. Why not us?" I dismissed it then, but he didn't. Over the next few months, he kept raising the idea, not pushing hard, just gently, like a wave hitting the same part of a shoreline until the sand finally gives way. Every few days, he'd mention a new podcast episode or show me a couple who claimed they rediscovered each other through open intimacy. Sometimes he'd catch me after a long shift at work when my defenses were low. "We're young, Bobby. Don't you think it'd be fun? Before kids, before life gets boring?" I wasn't convinced, but Mason was persistent, always with soft persuasion, never fighting, just presenting it as something meant to bring us closer. Eventually, reluctantly, I agreed to try. Not because I wanted it, because I didn't want to lose him. But I insisted on rules. We sat at the kitchen table one night, a notebook between us. I remember the hum of the refrigerator, Mason spinning a pen between his fingers like this was some kind of strategic meeting. "Okay," I said. "If we do this, boundaries come first." He nodded quickly, too eagerly. "Rule 1, protection every time, no exceptions." "Of course," he agreed. "Rule 2, nothing happens in our home. No one comes here, ever." "Obviously," he said, sounding almost offended that I felt the need to clarify. "And Rule 3, I paused, the weight of it catching in my throat. "If either of us sleeps with someone else, then no touching each other for 30 days. And we both get tested before being intimate again." That rule gave him pause, but he finally nodded. "Fair." With that, we officially opened our marriage. For the first few weeks, nothing changed, or maybe I just pretended not to notice. But then Mason began scheduling Friday nights as if they were appointments. He'd get home, shower longer than usual, pick out a shirt he hadn't worn in years, and say, "Don't wait up, Bob." He always said it with a smile, like what we were doing was normal, enlightened, progressive, like this wasn't tearing at the edges of something I used to feel safe inside. When he came home at night, he'd tell me details, where he went, what they ate, what she said, what he laughed at. I hadn't asked for any of it, but he talked like sharing made it better, like transparency was some magical disinfectant. Meanwhile, I told myself I needed to participate too. So I went on my first date. It was awkward. Polite conversation over coffee, a surprisingly easy smile from the guy. But when he found out I was married, his expression shifted. Respectful distance replaced warmth. He ended the night with, "You seem amazing, Bobby, but I'm not comfortable dating someone who's taken." My next 2 dates ended the same way. Interest, curiosity, then pulling away the moment my ring glinted in the light. After the third time, I stopped trying. I never told Mason how humiliating it felt, sitting across from strangers who looked at me like I was the villain in my own marriage. And he never noticed I had quit. He was too wrapped up in his Friday night rituals, in the thrill of someone new. Still, I told myself this was temporary, an experiment he'd eventually get tired of. But somewhere between those nights alone and his bright-eyed recounting of the dinners, the laughter, the conversations, a quiet fear settled in my chest. What if I had agreed to something that would break us? What if this freedom he wanted meant losing him piece by piece? And what if he didn't realize it until it was too late? Even then, I tried to preserve the illusion that we were okay. I cleaned the house, cooked dinner, talked about work, kissed him goodnight. But cracks had already formed, hairline fractures in trust, in closeness, in belonging. and I was about to find out just how deep those cracks really went. My husband came home at almost 3 in the morning that Friday night. The door clicked shut softly, like he was trying not to wake me, except I was already wide awake, sitting on the couch with a blanket wrapped around my legs. Mason stretched his arms and said he was sore, laughing like he'd had the workout of his life. But when he bent down to untie his shoes, the loose collar of his shirt shifted just enough for me to see it. A darkening blotch on his chest. A hickey, fresh, visible, unhidden. He didn't even try to cover it up. He didn't see the way I stared, or maybe he did, and he simply didn't care enough to hide it. He walked past me humming, smelling like someone else's perfume, something floral, unfamiliar, too sweet for the colognes he usually wore. And I sat there, gripping the edge of the blanket, forcing myself to breathe through the ache growing slowly in my ribcage. 2 days later, he touched my waist while I was folding laundry. "Come here," he murmured, leaning in to kiss me. "Mason," I said, stepping away. "No, 30 days. You know the rule." He blinked like I had spoken another language. "You're actually serious?" "You slept with someone else. We agreed to take a break afterward and get tested." "Oh my God, Bobby, that's just technical. Are we really doing this?" "Yes," I said quietly. "We are." He scoffed, the sound sharp enough to cut. "You're blowing this out of proportion." But it wasn't out of proportion. It was the only thing keeping the ground from collapsing under me. That was the beginning of our new routine. Every Friday night, he left the house wearing the good clothes he used to save for date nights with me. He'd come home hours past midnight, smelling like another woman's lotion, humming songs we'd never listened to together, and during the week, he'd drift around me, hovering, waiting for me to soften. He wanted me again only when the thrill wore off somewhere else. I, meanwhile, began vanishing in small ways. I stayed longer at work, drove slow on the way home just to delay walking through the front door. I started running at night, partly to clear my head, partly so I didn't have to listen to him talk about the woman he wasn't supposed to love but clearly did. I lost weight without trying. My face reshaped itself. My clothes hung differently. Mason didn't notice any of it. He never noticed anything about me anymore. 5 months in, I had stopped hoping for anything between us to feel normal again. But I still tried. I still believed maybe he'd remember us, until the night of our anniversary. I took the entire day off work, cleaned the house top to bottom, cooked his favorite dinner. I even put on the dress he once said made me look like the version of myself he fell in love with. I lit candles and rehearsed how I'd surprise him. He came home at 4, a quick kiss on the cheek, a half smile. Then he went straight to the bedroom to shower. A few minutes later, he walked out buttoning a clean shirt, the good one he used for special occasions. My heart fluttered for a second. I thought maybe he remembered. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Oh, there's this band playing at a bar. Should be fun." I stared at him, unable to speak. He glanced at his watch. "Don't wait up, okay?" "Mason, it's our anniversary." He froze, just for a heartbeat. A tiny flicker of realization passed over his face, but not regret, not even surprise, just inconvenience. "Oh, right, damn, rain check. I already told her I'd be there." Her, not a friend, not someone, just her, like she was entitled to his time and I was the intruder. He left moments later, asking if I wanted him to blow out the candles before he left. I didn't answer. I ate dinner alone at the table set for 2. The candles burned down into small puddles of wax. The house felt too quiet, too dim, too tired. Around 10, I went to bed. He still wasn't home. When I woke up the next morning, sunlight already bright against the curtains, the other side of the bed was untouched, cold. I sat up slowly and looked at my phone. No messages. No call. Nothing. At 10:17 a.m., I typed one text, just one. "You broke the boundary. No sleeping over. I'm done." I placed the phone on the nightstand and waited. Nothing. Then, at 11:30, it lit up with call after call. 7 missed ones before I finally answered. His voice poured into the line in frantic waves. "Bobby, please, listen. I didn't mean to stay over. I fell asleep, okay? I swear it was a mistake. I closed my eyes for a second. Please don't do this, please." For the first time in months, he sounded scared, really scared. But fear wasn't a reason to unbreak the broken. "Mason," I said, my voice calm, steady, unfamiliar even to me. "You made your choice." "What are you talking about?" he snapped. "We said this was just fun. It's harmless, right? Why are you acting like this?" Because the only harmless thing in our marriage now was me. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't beg him to remember what we used to be. I just exhaled, slow and final, and whispered, "You stopped coming home to me long before last night." And for the first time, he had no answer. After that morning, something in Mason shifted. Panic, maybe. Or fear of losing the safety net he'd assumed would always be there. He tried to act normal around me afterward, hovering in the kitchen, offering to drive me to work, making small talk like he thought being pleasant would undo months of emotional abandonment. One Saturday night, he knocked softly on my bedroom door. Yes, we had begun sleeping apart. The distance between us wasn't just emotional anymore. "Can we talk?" he asked. I shrugged, not looking up from the book I wasn't really reading. He stepped inside, rubbing the back of his neck. "Look, about the other night. I'm sorry, okay? I shouldn't have stayed over. It just happened." "You fell asleep," I said flatly. "Yes," his voice cracked a little. "It wasn't intentional." "It never is," I replied, "but you still crossed the line." He hated that I wasn't yelling. He hated the calm. Mason was used to my softness, used to me cushioning every blow, making everything easier for him, but now my calmness only made him more anxious. "Can we just hit reset?" he asked, "please?" I didn't answer. He reached for my hand, fingers brushing my wrist. "Bobby, I miss you." I pulled away. 30 days. He exhaled sharply and left the room, his footsteps heavier than they'd ever sounded. In the days that followed, he tried to be intimate with me again and again, touches on my shoulder, hands lingering at my waist, even leaning into me while I was brushing my teeth. "Mason, stop," I said every time. And every time he acted like the rule was something I invented just to punish him. He wanted closeness again only because someone else had started treating him like a toy instead of a choice. I could feel it. Something had shifted between him and the woman he'd been seeing. His text to her became shorter. His mood turned sour when he came home instead of smug. One night he blurted it out. "She was laughing at me," he muttered while pacing the living room. "When I told her you might leave, she said I was dramatic." I kept folding laundry. Sounds like the kind of person you'd open a marriage with. He flinched, just slightly. That was the night he said he didn't want to see her anymore. "I'm done with open marriage stuff," he insisted. "Let's close it. Let's fix things." But wanting to close it didn't erase the 5 months he had been gone. And it didn't erase the emptiness I felt every time he touched me now, as if the part of me that used to reach back for him had simply gone quiet. A few days later, the 30-day period finally ended. Mason went to the doctor and came home carrying a white envelope in his hand. He walked into the living room, face glowing with something that wasn't relief. It was excitement. The kind of excitement people get when they've been waiting to deliver news that transforms their world. "Bobby," he breathed, "you're not going to believe this." I closed my laptop slowly. "What?" He hesitated for dramatic effect, like he wanted the moment to feel special, like we were sharing good news. "We're pregnant," he said, smiling as if this were the beginning of something beautiful. For a moment, the room felt frozen. My heartbeat didn't quicken. My breath didn't catch. I just stared at him, at the joy on his face, the certainty. He stood there grinning, completely misreading the silence. I looked him in the eyes and said quietly, "Good. I hope you two will be happy together." The smile collapsed off his face. "What?" he stammered. "Bobby, no, the baby is ours." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. His eyes widened in panic. "Don't do this. Don't say that. Of course it's ours." But nothing about the last 5 months felt like ours. And something else, something uglier, sat beneath his words. Even with the pregnancy news, he was still hoping for comfort from the same woman he'd been sleeping with. I found out later that he texted her. I found out because he showed me, desperate for sympathy maybe, or shocked by her cruelty. He told her he got someone pregnant. She replied with, "Wow, sucks to be you. Try passing it off as your wife's. El meo." My husband stared at the screen, pale, devastated. I felt nothing but cold clarity. He had opened the door. He had invited the storm in. Now he was drowning, and I had no intention of being pulled under with him. 3 days later, I filed for divorce. He begged, pleaded, followed me from room to room, saying things like, "It was just a mistake, and I was stupid, and we can fix this, please." He tried to kiss me, hug me, touch me, but every attempt felt like contact with a stranger, because that's what he was now, a stranger wearing my husband's face. Unfortunately, our lease wasn't up yet, so we were stuck in the same house, the same kitchen, the same hallways. He tried to win me back through pathetic attempts, bringing me food, offering back massages, leaving notes on my pillow. But resentment grows like mold, quiet, thick, impossible to scrub out. Whenever he tried to flirt or reach for me, I walked away. Whenever he cried, I stayed silent. Whenever he asked for one more chance, I closed the door to my room. One night, 3 weeks after the divorce filing, he walked into my room holding a pizza box. "Thought we could eat together," he said softly. I didn't respond. He sat on the edge of my bed. "Being pregnant is making me, He laughed awkwardly. "Extra needy. I just want to be close to you again." I stared at him long enough for him to mistake it for interest. He leaned forward, whispers brushing the air. "Come on, Bobby. Let's just—" "No," I said sharply. He flinched. I didn't soften it. I didn't comfort him. I didn't play the understanding wife anymore. Instead, I said the cruelest truth I'd swallowed for years. "I'm not into desperate men." He choked on a breath, tears filling his eyes. He left my room crying. I didn't follow. It was the first night I realized I wasn't losing anything by leaving him. I was finally getting my life back. The house felt quieter after that night. Not peaceful, just hollow, like a place where something once lived and died without a sound. Mason avoided me for a couple of days, sulking in his room, emerging only to grab food or pace back and forth in the hallway. I could hear him practicing arguments under his breath, trying to figure out which version of the truth might make me stay. But the part of me that once softened for him was gone. I didn't even mourn it. Our court hearing came faster than expected. The judge ordered 6 weeks of marriage counseling before the divorce could move forward. Mandatory. Required. A bureaucratic ritual meant to feel like hope. At our first session, we sat in separate chairs across from the therapist, answering questions neither of us believed would fix anything. Mason spoke like a man rehearsing a speech, regretful, controlled, strategic. I answered plainly, no tears, no dramatic confessions, just facts. The therapist looked between us with polite neutrality, unaware that the marriage she was trying to salvage had already died months before. When we left the office, Mason lingered behind, staring at me like I was slipping through his hands faster than he could hold on. "Can we do something for your birthday?" he asked suddenly. "Just you and me?" "No," I said without hesitating. His face fell. "Please, Bobby, just dinner. I want to make it special." "Special?" I repeated. "You forgot our anniversary and got someone pregnant on the same night. You don't get to ask me for special." The tears hit him instantly. Big ones, fast, like he'd been saving them for a moment he thought might matter. I walked past him and left him in the parking lot. The Friday before my birthday, he tried again. Tried to corner me in the kitchen, hands shaking, voice trembling. "I just want to celebrate with you," he whispered. "I just want to make one thing right." I turned around slowly, looked him in the eyes, and said the sentence that finally ripped the last string holding us together. "I am not wasting another special day on someone who couldn't bother to come home to me." He broke then, fully, ugly crying, hands over his face, his shoulders shaking like the weight of every choice he made had finally landed on his back. I stepped around him and went to work. I didn't know it would be the last conversation we had as husband and wife. Monday morning arrived. He didn't show up for our scheduled counseling session. I waited 10 minutes, then 15. I texted him, called him. Nothing. The therapist looked at me with concern, asking if he was okay, and I lied, said he was probably just running late. But when I stepped outside the office, my phone lit up with missed calls. Not from Mason, from his parents. Voicemails, panic in their voices. "Bobby, please call us back. It's about Mason." My hand tightened around the phone. My heart punched once, hard, against my ribs. When I called them back, his mother answered in a trembling whisper. "He's been arrested." Her words dropped into the silence like a stone sinking through water. "Arrested for what?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. "Driving without insurance, she said. Reckless endangerment. He was swerving all over the road." "Bobby," he was crying, completely hysterical. "They took him in Sunday morning." My birthday. He spent the entire night unraveling. A part of me wanted to feel something. Anger, pity, shock. But all I felt was the quiet confirmation of something I'd known for a long time. Mason wasn't the man I married. He wasn't even someone I recognized anymore. His parents came to our house that evening to pack up his things. They looked exhausted, hollow-eyed, ashamed, unsure how to navigate the shame of their son's choices while still loving him. I helped them fold clothes, seal boxes, carry bags to the rental truck. His mother cried when she thanked me. "You're a good woman," she whispered. "Better than he deserved." I didn't respond. I didn't disagree either. They left before sunrise, driving 8 hours back to their town, where Mason would be released to them. He asked through his parents if he could see me before leaving. I told them no. Some goodbyes shouldn't happen face to face. The divorce was finalized that Friday. I stood in front of the judge while she stamped the final document, and something inside me loosened, like a fist unclenching after being tightened too long. When I stepped outside the courthouse, the air tasted different, cleaner, sharper, like oxygen had weight again. But freedom isn't the same as healing. The days afterward were strange, too quiet, too still. My phone buzzed nonstop, not with messages from Mason, but from unknown numbers sending me his apologies through mutual friends. I changed my phone number, deleted my Facebook, muted half my contacts. Even then, I caught myself sitting alone at night, replaying everything. Not the good memories, the mistakes I didn't see coming. Why had I agreed to an open marriage? Why did I try so hard to hold on to someone who had already let go? And then, unexpectedly, a soft thought emerged, one I hadn't allowed myself to consider. Maybe I wasn't crying for him. Maybe I was crying for the version of myself that stayed too long. A week later, Mason called me. I don't know how he got my new number. I didn't ask. I almost declined the call, almost threw the phone across the room. But something, curiosity, closure, exhaustion, made me answer. His voice was small, softer than I'd ever heard it. I just want to apologize, he said. Not to fix anything, not to get you back. I just needed to say I'm sorry. He listed everything. The nights he lied, the mornings he pretended, the times he made me feel crazy for wanting boundaries he had agreed to, the months he put me on a shelf and took himself off the moment someone else wanted him. He even apologized for the pregnancy, calling it the consequence of wanting attention from someone who didn't care about me. And then, his voice cracking, he said, I hope one day you don't hate me. I took a long breath. I don't hate you, Mason, I said finally, but I'm done saving someone who broke me. He sobbed once, a quiet, defeated sound, and promised he wouldn't contact me again. I believed him, because this time he understood the difference between losing a marriage and being left behind by the woman who finally learned to choose herself. In the strange calm that followed, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years. My mother. Her voice shook when she answered. Mine did too. We talked for almost an hour, about nothing and everything. About life, about starting over, about how sometimes the hardest endings are the ones that give us our first real beginning. For the first time in months, I felt my chest loosen. Not because of Mason, not because the pain was gone, but because I was stepping into a life where the hurt wasn't in control.